Come on in. It ain't never been.
Innocence, my innocence is breaking for me. My heroes turn to villains, really, and it's breaking the sea. The price of faking is free. Costing integrity's more I can afford on one knee, praying for forgiveness. A revolution for me. Sometimes I'm hypocritical. Can't be too critical on myself. Who really living by them standards that we built? We all got addictions, prescriptions to fit in. I'm trying to be high on living.
Explain the title of the new album, a film called Black.
A film called Black. So just to give context for a film called Black, myself and Cam, we have a long-standing history working together, working in different mediums of art. Cam, he's an artist. I'm an artist. We kind of collided on the Chicago music scene together. As we started to continue to work together in different mediums, like as he was shooting music videos for me, I started working on his album. He started working on my projects. We came together as just a group of friends coming together to make music. And this was around the pandemic, more specifically. And then we started just making music just kind of like, as we normally would, but we realized that we had a good sound together. And we had a sound that was unique. It was outside of my sound and outside of his sound. And we were like, hey, we got to call this a group. Like, we're not just like Neak and Can Be, like we're a collective. So he came to me and he said, hey, man, I got an idea, something came to my head, a film called Black. But we were thinking about the title of the album as well. And I was like, I think that's a good name, a good group name, to connect with. But, we started seeing these themes, that we talked about, where we from, where we come from, Black life, the essence of Black culture, from Chicago and just kind of like our life experiences, traveling throughout the world, more specifically him, my life experiences, growing up in the city of Chicago. And we really started to see like this theme of Black life coming together and kind of tying a through line to like, our stories and our experiences. And then we just started thinking about Black on a larger scale, like outside of our own perspectives, and started opening up a conversation for what does Black mean to anyone, that kind of wants to dive in and be touched by this conversation.
Okay. The one thing that stood out to me about this album was the live instrumentation that's incorporated.
Yeah.
Was that collaborative process with the other musicians? Did you guys go into it going, hey, we're gonna work with these people, or did you just start making beats and have people come in and add on?
I think, with both me and Neek, we always have some sort of element of live music, live instrumentation. I would say myself probably a little bit more.
Mhm.
A lot of those relationships with those musicians had already been established, long-standing relationships with artists. We both worked with for a while, worked with for a while. So in the process of working on this album, it was more of just that. Like I'm working on new music, sending people stuff, sharing stuff with people. Some people come and to my studio and record. Like Sam Thousand, that's a long-standing collaborator both me and Neek have. And he's played on all my records, so it just kind of a natural process of playing on this record as well. And I'm just a collaborator. For me, music is just a collaborative process. As a film director, it's a very collaborative process making a film. So I would just see it as that, like different pieces. I can hear different things happening in the music as we're putting it together. And it's just kind of like, okay, let's hear them sound about getting them on trouble for this. Or Chris Pacquiao, who played a lot of the percussion or all the percussion really on the album, having
Yeah.
him come through and do stuff just to kind of liven it up and make it feel alive and active and not just like a very stagnant kind of just straight beat. So
Mhm.
it's always just something that just I have a craving for when we're just creating, and these are like people that we collaborated with for years.
All right. Neek, on the song Motherland, you say they all love you and they took from you. And it made me think about how disconnected Black Americans are with Africa and how misinformed everyone is about Africa. What was the inspiration behind that song?
So Motherland was It was originally like a record. We started off just with the drum beat, and Cam took the drum beat and he started adding instrumentation to it. You know, guitar. You know, kind of the bass, kind of getting a feel for it, and Cam is really good at like creating these sketches of a records, kind of like leading the records and kind of like the conversation on the records, like kind of what are the themes. And he had said something in the song, as with his lyrics. He said, back to the motherland. And I was like, that sounds like kind of like the repetitive hook, like the essence of the song. And we were already, I think this is one of the later songs, when I'm saying Canada, we started working on. We already had kind of like established like a theme, like this whole, again, film called Black, this whole exploration of Black life. And with that song, that hook just stuck to me, that those lyrics stuck to me. So, with that, we collaborate, he write, I write, we write together. And that was just a song that I couldn't stop writing. The verse is pretty long. I couldn't stop it. I'm just, everything is coming out of me thinking about, you know, kind of like our place in the world, over these, last couple of centuries. Like, man, how much Black culture around the world has been impactful, inspirational, that has really like created, what we see today and what people love today in culture. So just kind of putting that essence out there, like, man, we're beautiful, we're lovely, we're not haters, we love everyone in the sense of humanity, but this is the beginning of humanity, and this is what we're acknowledging, and we showing that love, and just that acknowledgement, like, that's the motherland, that's where the essence of everything come from, in culture and just in life.
In life, indeed. Um, Cam, on the song Change, you say, in a sense, my innocence is breaking from me. My heroes turn to villains, really, and it's breaking to see. That line, it reminded me of how so many Black artists and athletes and politicians and people in the media have kind of normalized the current president.
Hmm.
Mm.
Is this an example of why we shouldn't look up to people?
Uh, yeah, I mean, in a sense, I think I borrowed some of that line from another MC ad too. He says it a little differently, but he says something. I can't remember his exact line, but it's the same kind of theme or same kind of idea. Uh, and I think that's the something I, as somebody who filmed a lot of celebrities and stuff, that's something I had grown to understand. Is like the people that you meet that you look up to, sometimes they're really going to disappoint you, and not be the people that you look up to, or maybe they transform to a different person by the time you meet them. You never know, like what goes through people's lives. But it's like I think there's I have a spiritual identity and just thinking about like more of like looking up to that as opposed to like human beings and like people. Um, and I think like when you mentioned the president are just people in power, it's kind of really disgusting to see how people are operating with that power when they have that power. And just it also is like that song is also like looking into myself too, like examining myself and like who am I, to make these judgments as well. Like I'm not,
Mm.
perfect person as well. I'm flawed as well. So just like looking at myself, but also looking at other people and saying, like not necessarily making idols out of these people. Everybody's kind of flawed and people do great things and horrible things at the same time. And it's like, how do we reconcile that as people, as human beings, and move forward? With people who do great things, have great contributions to society, but also have like these really strong negative stigmas and negative things that they've done and hurt people's lives as well. So it's I think it's an ongoing conversation I'm having with myself, and that we need to have as a collective.
Mm.
Definitely, man. That's a tough one. That's a
Hmm.
tough one. I think of, so many celebrities have fallen from grace.
Mm.
Uh, um, you know, when people are on different sides of things too, because like when Kanye said that slavery was a choice and Harriet Tubman didn't free anybody,
Hmm.
Mm.
that was it for me. And I'm like the biggest Kanye fan in the world, but
Mhm.
that was my line. I'm
Uh-huh.
like,
Mhm.
okay, you can't disrespect the ancestors. That's my personal line. And I'm talking to a friend about it, and she's like, "You really care about that?" Like she
Mhm.
just all she cares about is the music.
Mhm.
And I'm like, man, can I separate those two?
Mhm.
I don't know. I struggle with that. I struggle with that. In reality, Kanye is a person, a flawed person like all of us.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Um, am I being judgmental? Maybe, but I think it's reckless to go on TV and say what he said. He said a lot of
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. He said a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So I can't listen to Kanye in the same way. I can't listen to him. And it hurts because dude, you couldn't find a bigger cheerleader. When Kanye first came out, I'm like,
Mhm.
Yeah.
I bought like five, six copies of the album. I'm giving them to people.
Yeah.
Because in my mind, I'm like, Common didn't blow up, Twisted didn't blow up. This is
Mhm.
our chance. This is the city's
Yeah.
chance.
Yeah.
And it turned out he was the guy.
Yeah.
To 20 years later, I'm like, man, would this dude please go away? It's
Yeah.
yeah, it kind of hurts, man. It kind of hurts. You know, uh, a lot of people when Hulk Hogan died recently, and his death sparked a lot of conversation because he uttered racial slurs.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I'm a wrestling fan, and as a kid, when I'm 8 year old me loved Hulk Hogan, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all did.
Who didn't? Who
Yeah,
didn't?
to be an adult and hear him say what he said, that's my line. I can't. I'm
Yeah.
not with. I'm not glad he's dead, but I'm
Yeah.
like, I I can't feel nothing about that, man. I know what he
Yeah.
thought of me. He said what he thought of me, what he thought of us.
Yeah.
But there's people who go, but he did this, he did that. He was the biggest
Yeah.
star in wrestling.
Mhm.
He's got kids.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's tough, man. It's tough. Yeah, we do need to look away from celebrities, but I don't know how.
Yeah, it's definitely a culture of celebrity. It's a celebrity culture, like
Yeah.
that really like uplifts celebrities, but also tears down celebrities. They do both, It's like it's an interesting world, and especially being in the U.S. I think this with celebrity culture is it's a very like intricate, kind of
And
world that exists.
I think it's with more access to information and people seeing more behind, more BTS into people's lives, celebrities' lives. I
Hmm.
think that, it's like a lot of the walls have came down on people's lives.
Hmm.
So the things that we normally wouldn't see, we get access to. So it's kind
Yeah,
of changing our perception of how we seeing people too. I mean, obviously people got to be accountable for their actions for sure, but I think just this constant, consistent access to people's lives, I mean, it's making it harder for people to even be human. Because if they do make a mistake, man, it's going viral. It's a wrap. It's a wrap.
Right. Yeah. And I think about that often. Like, I try not to judge people because if you knew me 25 years ago, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Not 25, maybe 35, like my teenage years. Yo, I was crazy. I'm not even the same person anymore. I would hate to
yeah,
be judged by that.
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because
And I
if
think
you, I'm sorry, but if you live long enough, you can grow and evolve.
yeah, yeah, and I think I was gonna say the opposite too. Like people are get a lot of exposure to money and fame and all these other things, and you kind of devolve or like you move in a different place that we don't have that experience of. We don't have people constantly giving us scrutiny and constantly giving us praise, and people being around just for money or just for opportunity or whatever. And so it's like that's a different world. You know what I
Right.
mean? And everybody navigates it differently once they get there. So you never know how you're gonna kind of deal with it until you're there. And I think a lot of that is dealing with, those things that a lot of us don't have to deal with.
Can't fathom. That's very true. Very true. Okay, on the song Wade in the Water, the chorus says what happens when you do not love self, how you think you're gonna treat everybody else. I think that rhyme explains many of the issues in the inner city
Hmm.
uh,
Mm,
that Black people face, that poor people face.
mm,
How does one begin to love themselves? You're in this situation, you're just trying to survive.
yeah.
You ain't thinking about that. How does somebody begin to love themselves?
Oh, that's a loaded question, man. And the reason why I say that is because everybody has a different human experience, and your human experience, like I can't tell you how that impacts you, as a person. Like two people can go through the same thing and have two different responses. I was lucky enough to be raised in a household where my parents were, very loving and caring about who I was as a person. So when I had trials and tribulations, I was pulling on the lessons from my mother, my father, about how to handle life, how to handle, tough situations, and to not let, those things like create and build my identity, right? Like my identity is not in what I do. So I was lucky enough to get that. And a lot of people aren't lucky enough to get that type of lifestyle and that type of love. And I ain't even talking about like finances or resources. I'm talking about like genuine human care. So I think that, you know, it just starts with, getting that, getting well within yourself in terms of your identity. Like, what is it rooted in? We got to have people around us, that can help, sow into us and be like, show us that, life is beyond, what you do and what you have. Like you are worth it if you didn't have anything. If your life was just the way it was, you're worth it. You don't have to perform. You don't have to be something in order for people to love you and care about you. So having a deep sense of love from an identity place, I think it starts there because now you're not grasping onto everything to try to, I guess, define and make yourself feel secure. Because when you're not secure in yourself, that's when you get a lot of the hatred and the vitriol and all of those things start to come up and come to the surface. But again, I think it's a very loaded question. I don't think it's a one size fits all. But I will say, beginning of love for self starts with you knowing who you actually are. Me, I root my identity. You know, I believe in Lord Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, living off the principles of Christ, the principles, not church, not what people have passed down for him to be. I'm talking about me reading and getting the identity for myself. I lead from that place. Love your neighbors, you love yourself. Love God with all your heart, your strength, your soul. So I'm loving from that place and I'm being that. And everything I do is coming from that place. So I just think it starts with the identity and where you come from. It don't matter, your background, what you worship and all. I don't care about none of that. Do you have love? And are you showing up with that? And are you being that and treating people how you want to be treated? And everything flows from that.
It's loaded because I'm looking at the person who does not have love. How do they begin to love themselves? What you're saying is you inherited that. You got that from somebody.
Right, right. That's exactly. That's why I said it's love in a sense where, man, you don't everybody don't get that. But you know, through the grace of life and through the grace of God, that we have to each one teach one, right? Like you don't know, you being you and you being who you are and loving in that way, you can shift somebody's life. So even though that person may not get that per se, but what if they come into contact with me? Or if they come into contact with you or Cam or somebody who is loving from a place, right? Like maybe that could be the moment where they shift. We don't know. It may not happen. And, again, that's just on a personal level. We can talk about systemic issues. We can talk about the government's responsibility and the type of lifestyles we grew up in, the systematic issues that are real. you can't get away from them. I don't care what nobody say, but I think it can be this and that, you know. I think we can have better systemic, you know, and political things put in place to help give people the resources they need so they're not operating in survival. But in the same token, that doesn't still, exclude us from being loving our neighbors, we love ourselves, and showing up, being that, for other people, and being that beacon of light that people can gravitate towards and can love.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, last question, guys. What do you hope to achieve with a film called Black?
I think for me, a lot of film called Black is about identity, talking about and just culture, black music, and just kind of continuing on that legacy that of all the rich soul, funk, hip hop,
Yeah.
blues, gospel, all the foundation of the music that I love that's really helped uplift me and help me grow and help me as a person. Just kind of continue that legacy on with what we're doing with a film called Black and continue just like open people's minds and ideas and thoughts about our own history, our own identity. And we've gotten a lot of great feedback really in the music that we shared and the time we shared with some of those things happening. So it's really encouraging to see the feedback and see the response for this project.
Yeah, I mean, I echo everything Cam just said, man. We really, strike some gold here, something special. We got great chemistry. We've developed a really good, solid, collaborative, effort together. So we're just gonna keep going with the music and then keep, pressing into these different mediums of art that we also gravitate towards with the film called Black through film and through fashion and through curated experiences. Again, it's just about empowering us as people and really loving ourselves and really exploring the diaspora together, not just, what we've experienced, between us, but how we can continue to broaden and grow with each other in that conversation, with other people.
Okay. All right. Can be. Neat. Thank you for joining the realhiphop.com.
Yeah, thanks for having us. It's great. Appreciate
Man,
you.
it's always a pleasure, man. Always.
Oh man, always. I love talking to you, bro. All right. Take care, guys.
All
Peace.
right, thank you.
Yeah, motherland, I miss you. Never seen you so issue in my internal tissue. DNA feel it go against you, pledge allegiance. Coincidental oppression usually starts in the mental. Work its way through all my physical heart, lay on the sleeve.